Hey guys, welcome to Smart Women Read Romance, a book review podcast where we fangirl over all things romance. I'm Jessen.
And I'm Juliette.
And today we're going to be reviewing Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas, the fifth book in the Ravenel series. And this book also has a connection to our sixth episode, Devil in Winter. Ooh. So go listen to that one too because it's amazing. But before we dive in, you know the drill already. We want you to subscribe to our podcast so that you can be notified whenever our new episodes are available for you. And we also would love it if you could rate and review us because that really helps us become available to other people. We want new listeners, okay? So go do that. Juliette and I love getting feedback from our listeners, so follow us on our social media pages at SWReadRom. And if you're looking for some extras, join our Patreon for access to exclusive giveaways and a look behind the scenes of our episodes. And exclusive content, including monthly videos featuring Q&As and some fun games that we play. We want to welcome our newest patron, Cheyenne, to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting us, Cheyenne. We're so thankful for all of our patrons for supporting the podcast. It really helps, guys. Just letting you know. Thank you so much for your support. All right, so I thought that this was pretty hilarious, and I was telling Juliette the other morning. I drop off my youngest sister, Aubrey, who is 10 years old. At
Adorable.
School in the morning
so
because
cute.
her school's next to my office. And after I dropped her off, I voice messaged Juliette and I was like, okay, so what's wrong with this picture? My 10-year-old sister just introduced me to the soundtrack for Hamilton, the Broadway play. And I was like, where has this been all my life?
I started freaking out because like my second son, Jacob, who's 18, has memorized the entire play. He sings it around the house.
Really?
Yes.
Is that like his favorite play?
Oh, absolutely.
Right now?
Yeah. And so Kevin, it's so funny. So Kevin's a history teacher. Okay. When it first came out, he was being all obstinate. Like, oh, I don't think it's going to be like, accurate. And they've made it all
always
whatever.
Needs to be accurate for those history teachers.
He was like freaking out. Well, now he is in love with it. He's like, that's absolutely true. That part, that's absolutely true. Like, I'm like, okay, shut up. Let me listen to this.
Like, let's just enjoy the story.
No, but he does. He sings the music. Like, we love Hamilton. Oh my God.
That is so
good.
awesome. No, I was like floored by the music. I was like, this is so funny. And I'm like, when can we go see it? And then so I was talking to Juliette and I was like, I would love to go see it. And then she was telling us how she wanted to go see it, but like the tickets were like astronomical for the US tour. I think it's actually in New Orleans right now.
Yeah, it's at the Sanger right now. Because we go to the Sanger a lot. We just saw Book of Mormon down there. And it keeps popping up in my feed, my Facebook feed. Facebook stalks you and like shows you like, look, Hamilton tickets on sale now. I'm like, shut up. I cannot afford that right now.
We know it's here. We can't go see it.
Stop reminding me what I'm missing.
I think that's like one of the musicals that I definitely, it's on my list. I have to see it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's what we told Jacob. I'm like, look, we can't go right now, but it's going to come around again and we're all going to go, so definitely.
So I just thought that was hilarious that my sister introduced me to Hamilton, but apparently they were playing that, a couple of the songs for them in her history class because they were learning about,
Kevin.
the revolution.
Kevin does too. Kevin shows.
That's so awesome. So I was like, Aubrey, I'm like, thank you so much. So we've been jamming it like every single morning. I'm like, put Hamilton on, okay?
Yeah. Kevin teaches Declaration of Independence, so then he gets that.
And I feel so like late to the game too because I know it's been out for a while, but like
it's won all the Tonys like in every time. You know what I told Kevin? It reminds me of. I compare it a little bit to like Jesus Christ Superstar because Jesus Christ Superstar was this rock opera sort of thing, the story, with all this like 70s music is awesome. And I feel like this is the same. It's just freshened up that whole story. It was just amazing.
I was so surprised. I'm like, Aubrey, what are you putting on the rapping? And I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm like, is this about the American Revolution? I'm like,
the rapping in Hamilton.
It's funny. So anyway, I just thought I would share that with you guys. But I guess let's jump into this episode because we have a lot to talk about with Devil's Daughter. So let's get right into this. All right, guys, let's start talking about this book because I'm ready for it.
Devil's Daughter.
Ready for some Devil's Daughter. Okay, I gotta stop with the singing. I don't know what that's about.
Okay, so Devil's Daughter is a beautiful story about an unlikely pairing between a widow and her late husband's childhood enemy. Some of our favorite tropes are woven into the story. Enemies to lovers, single-parent romance, broody hero, and reformed rake. awesome. Kleypas expertly balances the emotional and physical development of our MC's relationship, making Devil's Daughter one of our top favorites from this interconnected world.
It truly is amazing. I had high expectations because, Sebastian's children.
Exactly.
But they were met. They were met. Yeah. And I just really loved all the cameos in the book, both the big and the small ones too.
Yes.
But, I mean, Sebastian stole the show.
Oh, my God.
He's just... God, Sebastian. You already had your episode, man.
I know. I mean, 2 of my favorite quotes that I wrote down for Patreon or from him and from him to West. Like, I'm like, okay, this is not your book, amazing. Sebastian.
I know, Sebastian. He's just, such a vibrant character.
And
Can't help it.
I love seeing all the wallflowers. And, I know there were other cameos, but I haven't read all of the books, although it did really make me want to read Gabriel and Pandora's book.
Oh, yeah.
I really fell in love with Pandora and Gabriel in this one.
Pandora is so quirky.
She's adorable.
She's great. I love her words that she makes up, like she combines them.
Yeah.
And their book is Devil in Spring. That was a great book. I loved it a lot. And you have to read that one.
It's on my list.
Yeah, I know. You poor thing. I feel so bad. I'm like introducing you to these new series, and I'm like, read all of them.
And I'm reading like 8 books this week. Can you shut up and move on? No, I'm kidding.
But there were also the ones that you didn't notice there were a few from previous Ravenel's books, including Garrett Gibson. I don't know if you remember the woman doctor, and Ethan Ransom too from Hello Stranger. That was the previous book actually.
Okay.
And Ethan Ransom is actually a cousin. That's why he was included in the Ravenel's
series.
So anyway, let's talk about our characters because these characters are great.
They are.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about them. A young widow, still grieving the loss of her best friend and husband, Phoebe is dreading the inevitable mingling that she will be forced into for her brother's wedding festivities. If that wasn't bad enough, the bride is related to her husband's childhood enemy, Weston Ravenel. Now, Weston Ravenel, he is once a debauched hellion. He's found purpose in managing his brother's newly inherited estate, Devon. That's book 1. Though his days of drunk revelry are behind him, he can't seem to shake the shadow of the past. And then Phoebe walks into his life, a fiery, beautiful woman who captures his attention and heart. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have to say because I think all of our thoughts are pretty on the spoilery level. So you're just going to have to go read the book or just tread into our spoiler territory with us. But we will be spoiling everything about the book. Everything, completely. All right, guys, we are in the spoiler section officially. And as always, we're going to start off with our showdown to see who has the best favorite scene from Devil's Daughter.
Okay.
You're going first.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here we go. I'm going to go first. All right. So my scene for this one is after their interlude. When they had the whole day together, West and Phoebe had the whole day together going over all the accounting and the farming and all that stuff. And then they had this super hot finger banging moment down on the floor. All right. So this is the first time they're super intimate,
Yeah, not just kisses.
Yeah, not just kissing, but yeah. So, and then West turns it into, I've taught you a lesson. You can be attracted to whoever, whatever. And sort of hurt her feelings and she storms off. And this is right before she's leaving, So I had to give that as a prelude. So my favorite moment is that he not just realizes what an ass he is, but he marches up to her room and then apologizes to her with this beautiful apology. He says, I misled you about why I did it. It wasn't to prove you still had those feelings. I wanted to prove you had those feelings for me. It was selfish and stupid. I shouldn't have taken liberties with you. And then the other part, he basically admits that he was jealous that she is semi-betrothed to Edward, the cousin or whatever. In a lot of books like this, we expect the guy to go storming off and just brood forever and just let her believe that he was being a total dick, and so she just has these hurt feelings for the duration of the book.
Right.
But he doesn't. He realized it and he's like, I'm going to be a man and go and apologize.
He just couldn't let her leave.
Yeah, he couldn't let her leave thinking that of him. Even though
that was his purpose.
Even though that was his purpose, and even though he still felt like he wasn't good enough for her and we can't be together. So I really like that because it was an unexpected scene to me.
Right.
And it just showed West is just vulnerable and beautiful, and I love him.
I do like his type of vulnerability. I think that it needs to be handled with care.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be too self-deprecating, but he doesn't take it that far. And he almost makes fun of himself sometimes.
A lot. So my showdown scene is after West gets hurt, saving her son, Justin, from the bullpen. Mm-hmm. She goes check on him. And she wanted to wait until everybody left. Yeah. And so she goes in. He thinks it's his valet. And
this is one of my favorite scenes too. I almost picked this one.
It's so good. So we get to the point where West is like, and I owe you an apology. And she's like, apologize for what? Like, you just saved my son.
Yeah.
And he goes dig in his drawers and he pulls out this book and he hands it to her. And the book is the book that he stole from Henry whenever they were at boarding school. And it's Stephen Armstrong, Treasure Hunter. And Phoebe, she had kind of almost said it at dinner, that was a book that was stolen, but then she already knew who West was. Mm-hmm. And so she didn't want to cause any conflict, but he was connecting the dots. And so he realized it then, and he gave it back to her. And he was just saying, it was so heartbreaking because he said that he used to pretend all the little X's that she made in it were
42
for him.
Of them. 42 kisses were for him.
Yeah. And he never had owned a book before. And he also wanted to tease Henry so bad for reading. And because he was just he was just coddled and whatever. And he just felt kind of not envious in a way, but kind of just oh, you have it so easy in life. And what about my life?
Such a cushy life.
But then he read the book and he even told Phoebe, he was like, I never knew reading could be like that. And I even kind of wanted to talk to him about it, but then I never got a chance because I was too embarrassed. And by the time that I wanted to give it back to him, he'd already left the school. But then he was like, but I wanted to keep it for me too, because, I felt like this was mine. And Phoebe was like, I never thought, in all the years that I hated him for taking this special thing that was between me and Henry, I never thought that it would mean even more to him.
I know. Okay, so I'm voting for you because I love that scene so much.
But it ties into yours too, because whenever he does go visit her, he gives her a book.
Yes.
That he ends up by writing an inscription in, and he marks in there with little X's in there. And so I think we're on the same path. It's just it has deeper meaning for everything. The way that all of these little moments are just woven together is expertly done.
There's so many.
And this is why I'm a diehard one click. If you're writing a book, Lisa Kleypas, I'm buying it, and that's it.
Fan for life.
Okay.
All right, let's deep dive because there's so many good scenes. Let's go into the
breakdown. There is a ton. Okay. So in the first scene, Phoebe's traveling with her family to the Ravenel estate. Mm-hmm. And Phoebe had never met West before, but she knew one thing for certain, that he was a mean, rotten bully because she had known it because Henry, her best friend and her recently deceased husband, had told her all about this bully from boarding school. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was terrible because she was so protective of Henry. And so she already has these preconceived notions about West and about
what horrible guy.
Oh, yeah. And she just he's this lazy layabout whatever who made Henry's life miserable and who Henry never forgot. Never forgot about him. Apparently. No. Even on his, not deathbed, but you know what I'm saying.
It scarred him for life.
Definitely.
It's one of those things.
Which, understandable. But, so I think Henry was there for 4 years at the boarding school, and he has a delicate constitution. Henry was born with chronic illness, basically. I forgot
they call it a wasting disease, and so I wondered.
She did say it somewhere on Facebook. She did say it. I think somebody asked her.
Yeah, what she was basing it off of.
Yes, and I think it was Crohn's disease.
I was thinking that because they kept talking about his digestive system.
I think it's Crohn's disease.
Yeah, and that's
But don't quote me because I didn't go look it up. I'm just trying to remember from memory.
That would make sense, though.
Yeah. So he had that. He had a weak constitution. And eventually he was withdrawn from the boarding school. And that's whenever he was living with his parents. And he was close to Evie's parents' house. And they became really close, the whole family. And so that's how, Phoebe and Henry's relationship started. They were best friends, but whenever they got older, Phoebe insisted she wanted to marry him. She wanted to marry Henry. Yeah. And I think it was so cute
sweet,
though because
he didn't want to.
Henry's you don't want to be attached to me.
You don't want to be saddled with me.
Yes,
I'm not going to live.
An invalid.
Yeah, I'm not going to live a long life. And,
right. And Phoebe was like, I don't care. I'm strong enough for both of us. And I admire her for that.
I do too.
I
love the fact that she was like, we're going to love for the time we have.
Yeah,
together,
exactly.
So
I really do love her for that. And so after her brother Gabriel's wedding, she has to return to Essex to take care of her son's estate because she's been in mourning for the past 2 years. She's kind of not been paying attention to any of that, but now she has to leave her parents' house and she has to,
Henry's cousin Edward has been taking care of it.
Edward has it all in hand.
Yeah, Edward's got it all taken care of.
It's fine.
Don't worry.
It's fine.
Don't worry about those accounting books.
Fine.
You don't need to look at those.
No. So, Phoebe's in the carriage and she's just like recalling all of this stuff that Henry had told, written about West, that he was like a big lazy sloth. And so Phoebe's just like imagining him drinking and lying about.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. Which is really funny though. You haven't read the first book in the Ravenel series, but I have. And whenever we first meet West, he has like a bit of a belly.
Yeah.
Like just like, sloppy. Entitled, sloppy.
Yeah.
He's always drunk, really not doing anything. Yeah. But of course he redeems himself. He becomes useful. And now he's not that same man anymore.
Right.
But Phoebe doesn't know that. So whenever they arrive, her son, Justin, who's about 5 years old, runs in the house. And so she chases after him. And she spots this man who's like multitasking like a fucking pro.
Yeah.
He's just
organizing
like
everything.
Catching stuff behind him. Like, how did you even see that? Yeah. Like, he just is
you go here, you take this,
he's
you do
at the center of this hurricane, and it's and he's calm and he's handling shit.
He's managing.
Right,
everything.
exactly. And like Justin drops his marble, and like he even stops it with his foot.
It was so cute.
It was adorable. And
he plays a little game with them,
He does. He's like really good with kids.
Oh my God.
He's very good with kids.
I'm going to talk about that later.
Yes, absolutely. So, instant attraction for Phoebe. She's like, oh man, he's like really good looking. This estate manager's really nice looking.
Yes, the estate manager is really nice looking. And
exactly.
He's sweet to my son.
Yes. And West is really charmed by the easy interactions between Jessen and Phoebe. And I found this so endearing because he always compares it to the way that his mother was with him, his father was with him. And he was like, man, I never expected this daughter of a duke to be so at ease with her child instead of like, nanny. Yeah, exactly. So then Phoebe learns that this is West Ravenel whenever he introduces himself. And he even notices her gaze becoming shuttered, and he thinks it's because it's his reputation. Yeah, his like drunken, sleeping around with women.
Great. Yeah.
Like, well, that's understandable. Like, that makes sense. Yeah. Obviously, she's heard about me from somewhere.
Yeah, he has no idea it's because of the whole history with Henry.
Right, he has no idea about Henry, but he is incredibly embarrassed about his past behavior, and it is a continuing point of conflict throughout the entire story. Yeah. Like, this is his main point of conflict.
This is his internal conflict, absolutely.
Yes.
So Gabriel, Phoebe's brother, whose wedding they're there to attend, encourages Phoebe to go on a tour of the farm with West. Since he's been managing it, he can show her a lot of things. And her father, Sebastian, since she needs to be aware of how to run an estate.
Right. She does not take too kindly to Gabriel's suggestion.
No, she does not. She's like,
excuse
you don't
me,
even
we're
know.
In front of strangers.
Yeah, she's like, you don't even remember him. There was a guy that was cruel to, Henry and all this stuff. So they have kind of a moment, and then but she's content to let the matter be dealt with by her late husband's cousin, Edward, her farm, that is, at the moment. But West unintentionally butts into the conversation they're having about new farming practices, and it sparks Phoebe's interest just as much as it really annoys her, because it's like he's right and she hates it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like one of those moments where you're like, okay, swallow your pride,
Exactly.
But she's not rude or anything, but you can tell she's getting a little aggravated.
Well, it's not like they don't know each other, because
they don't.
Phoebe knows the other Ravenels, Devon. She knows West's brother and Devon's wife Kathleen, because they visited Sebastian and Evie's house before Gabriel and Pandora were like official engaged. Right. So she's like spent time with them, but she has no idea who this person is, and she's like, who are you to talk to me like you're comfortable with me? Like giving up this unasked for advice. Like, why are you even talking?
Right.
But she's gracious about it.
Great point. She's very gracious, but he makes a great point, and he is a little forward. He says, whose stakes are higher in all of this, his or yours? It's your son's inheritance, by God. If I were you, I'd have a hand in making the decisions. He's talking about Edward, like this guy who's managing your estate, your son's estate.
Because he's content to let the farming practices of old be the only farming practices that they're ever going to use.
Very non-progressive, like medieval era stuff.
Lazy.
Yes. So when Phoebe scolds Gabriel for pushing her on the farming matter, it leads to a discussion about the significance that Wes played in Henry's past. And that's what I was mentioning
you don't
earlier.
Remember who this is?
Yeah, you don't remember him. Gabriel thinks that Phoebe shouldn't hold it against Wes since he seems to have grown up. It's like he's not that person anymore. You can't blame him for what he did 10, 15 years ago. He also observes that Wes seems to be very interested in Phoebe in a physical way, and he makes this remark and she's like, what?
Yeah, you're seeing things. But I also wanted to just touch on the fact that Gabriel does be like, well, I think that he's gotten past this stage. He also kind of talks about how at boarding schools like that in that time, there was bullying and being bullied, and that was kind of part of the hierarchy. And he said he blamed Henry's parents for even thinking of sending him there.
I did like that he said that, because Henry was too mild-mannered to handle that sort of environment.
Right.
I mean, it's a Darwinian, sort of place where
who's higher in the pecking order. Let's sort this out. But Gabriel's not even the only one to remark upon this too. Her friend Merritt later on in the story also says something a little bit similar to him, being like, memories like that, like a memory that really was like a part of your childhood, sometimes are bigger whenever you're thinking back on them as an adult. Like, it seems like such a big deal.
And because you've been totally relate to that.
And I was like, wow, you're totally right. Like, something that happened and you're just like thinking about it, and it kind of gets warped in your head into like something bigger than it was.
You
not
think about
saying that it wasn't a big deal to Henry, but I'm just saying that
that's so true in real life.
He hadn't seen West in years since he was very young.
Yeah. And people change. People grow up, guys.
Some people don't. Some people do not.
Some people get worse.
Right, exactly. But Wes did. That's the point. That is the point.
So, and we also get to know that Phoebe is very nervous. She's been in mourning for a long time. And so coming back to the social setting after 2 years is really made her nervous. She's just kind of nervous to be around all these people at this wedding party.
She doesn't want them to expect her to be the same.
Right. And so we do have this really sweet exchange between her and Jessen, her little boy, her 4-year-old.
So cute.
He is so adorable. He doesn't like to kiss in front of strangers because he's too grown up for that. So he kisses his finger and she kisses her finger and they touch fingers.
It's the most cutest thing ever.
I know. He's like, Mom.
I also want to point out as well. Excuse me. I also want to point out as well, I love single parent romances. Like, this is like one of my jams because I like kids, and so but it has to be done right, because sometimes authors want to like stick a kid in there and they're almost like a prop.
Yeah.
They don't really have a personality, or they're not like even really there, and like why are they there? But Justin and Stephen, both of them are like integral to the story.
They are seriously integral to the story. And
I
almost picked another scene with them as my showdown
There were so
scene.
many scenes, and we were talking about this before. We had a really difficult time narrowing down our showdown scene because it was just a lot of really great
Can
scenes.
I have 10 showdown scenes?
Yeah, please. So I just thought that was adorable. I agree.
Yeah, it's so cute.
And another cute but quiet moment is when Ivo, the youngest of Evie and Sebastian's kids, comes to escort Phoebe down to dinner.
Oh my God. Please, Lisa Kleypas, please let Ivo have his story one day.
We do want Ivo's story. Well, this is the first time that Phoebe is going to wear a dress that's like not half morning clothes, not lavender, not gray, whatever.
I love
her maid. Her maid is like, please wear something other than lavender and gray. I'm so sick of it.
And then she sees it, just like she's like, it's too sparkly.
Yeah, she's like, oh my gosh, I got this dress like 2 years ago. This is like really sparkly. I don't think and it's like barely.
I know it's
colored.
barely. She's just so self-conscious.
She's so self-conscious about it. And Ivo comes to escort. He does not want her to walk down alone. Like, he's like, I'm here to escort you.
He's like 11.
He's 11. He's like this little kid. And he reassures her.
She said, I don't want to stand out too much.
I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. And he's like pointing to their head because they're the two redheads. They have Evie's red hair. He's like, we already stick out. It's
he's
fine.
like, sis, we're going to stick out wherever we go.
He's like,
it doesn't matter what you wear.
Don't change. So I just thought that was absolutely adorable. I loved Ivo's personality so much. Oh, wait, hold on. The best part, though, was right whenever he walked in and he was complaining. She was complaining about the color of her dress, and he was like, yeah, that beige color. And she goes, ecru. And he goes, bless you.
That's so cute.
I can't.
It's so cute. Ivo is adorable.
Ivo's the best. Okay. So anyway, moving on. Phoebe and West have been seated by each other for dinner. And she finds that he is surprisingly fun company because she was dreading it. She's like, oh, fuck, I don't want to sit near him. But he is humorous. He's self-deprecating, and he even knows the estate and its inner workings like the back of his hand. Like he knows everything that's going into the meal because he spent time in the kitchens with the cook, like knowing exactly what they're doing. And I thought that was great because like she's not even used to eating all kinds of rich foods because of Henry's appetite. He like couldn't have so many things. And that was also her experience with food. So,
he described the entire that spring vegetable like puree.
I wanted it so bad.
Me too.
I was like, man, where is this spring vegetable? I want it.
I know. And so she kind of was like, okay, I'll take a chance because she was going to just like beef broth. She's so used to eating everything plain. And I love this aspect too, that he's sort of like bringing her back.
Yeah, he's like, coloring her world a little bit more.
Yes.
She's been living in this kind of gray area of her life all like for however many years. Caring for Henry, being a nursemaid, being a kind of mother to him too. And like this is like, oh, let me introduce you to all these new senses that you've been denying yourself for however many years.
Love all those senses.
So the conversation turns to her children. And when West asks how they were named, we learn that her youngest, Stephen, was named after a character in one of Henry's favorite books, which was stolen by West. And this is where she cuts herself off. She's like, we're not going to start I'm not going to start a thing because this is Gabriel's wedding. But you can see the wheels are turning in West's mind. He's like a book. He's like, oh my God.
And he's like, oh, yeah.
But then the funniest thing happens. Phoebe is noticing that Wes is squirming in his chair.
This was also one of my showdown scenes.
It was great.
So good.
So she comes to his rescue because on his other side, Dolly is sitting on him. And if you've read Devil in Spring, which is Gabriel and Pandora's story.
That she was an issue in some other book.
Yeah, she was the reason why Gabriel and Pandora were caught in like this compromising quote unquote situation, which it wasn't really, but because of her, this is how they started, which it turned into a good thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dolly had her hand on West's thigh, and she was like, excuse me, he does not want your hand there.
She's like, here, would you like my napkin? Because you seem to be losing yours.
Yeah.
Searching for it in this
God. She's like, we could have shared him.
I know. I love that Phoebe was just
thank you for not sharing me.
I know. Phoebe was so just, I don't know, forward and bold.
Right. And I think that I liked her too because I think as a widow, she wasn't like this, debutante little miss that just like did not know how to handle certain situations. Like she'd already been around the block a little bit.
This is Sebastian's daughter.
I was about to say, and she's also has his personality and they don't just like take things lying down. And she was like, that's enough. That's enough. We're trying to have a nice dinner here.
Yeah. Can you get your hands back in your lap?
Quit it. So it was really good. It's just like light moments interjecting with like the serious moments because we just had that serious moment with the whole, I'm reminded that you're Henry's tormentor, but then we have this, this scene.
The dinner was lovely.
It was perfect.
It was so good. There were so many fun parts of that. And they told the story of the pig, oh my gosh, and the family. It was just adorable. It was too cute.
No, I loved everything about it. So, West challenges Edward Larson's view that an estate manager should never allow himself to become familiar with his tenants, and West often helps them work to build common ground and to also not interrupt their routine. That's what he tells Phoebe. Like, she's like, oh, so you've, been working out in the fields like scything? He's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I have.
And it's really hard work. And he explains to her how hard it is. You know?
Like, they're more likely to talk to me if I actually get out there and help doing what they're doing because they're busy, and because he's just trying to make her understand that his practices, Edward's practices, are just like so out of date. He's so out of touch, and he's probably alienating a lot of the tenants who could possibly give him good ideas on what to do.
Exactly.
And he just doesn't want. So, Though Wes is extremely attracted to Phoebe, he doesn't want to subject her to his past or taint her children with it either. This is a big point as well. It's not only Phoebe that he's worried about, it's also the children too, which is why I say that they're very integral to the story. And it endears Wes to me so much because I'm just like, you're so thoughtful. I love you.
I know.
So he's very quick to brush off any praise because he feels like he doesn't deserve it. This is like constant. Like right whenever he meets Sebastian, he's like, oh yeah, I've heard that you've done like really well with this farm. And he's like, oh no, I mean, the practices were so medieval, so it's really not that big of a step up.
That I really did.
But it was
Even
so
Devin
much.
was like, you saved us.
Right, exactly. Any praise from his brother, from anybody, he always brushes it off like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do. He really is embarrassed about what he was.
He has some self-esteem issues from what he was.
Definitely. And he doesn't feel like he's quite made up for it. But he has. He has.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the day after the wedding, Phoebe joins her father and Jessen on a tour of the farm with West. And West tells her that Edward's going to run the Clare estate, which is Jessen's estate now, into the ground. And Phoebe admits that she was defensive about his suggestions because she doesn't want to seem like she was being willfully ignorant about the subject.
Right.
Like she wasn't trying to brush it under the rug, but and he was like, you were dealing with a lot of stuff. You were dealing with a sick husband and 2 small children.
And she was pregnant during the
you don't think I would understand that? Like, it's understandable. You're going through
You're going through a lot.
Process.
Don't beat yourself up.
Like, it's fine. You want to learn now, and that's what matters. Like, that is what matters.
I know. I love this part. I love their relationship. I love how it builds. I love how he speaks to her.
The pacing is like phenomenal.
It's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
So while they're out and about visiting the farm and looking at all the machinery, we see West interacting with Justin and like putting him on his hip and like carrying him to show him the tractors or whatever these big machines are. And it surprises Phoebe how easily he talks to Justin and really,
He's like patient. He's not one of those adults that's just like, hush, why are you asking so many questions?
Be quiet, little boy. The adults are talking.
Right,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? He even is like, here, Justin, you want to get up there and drive it? And he's like,
Phoebe's
oh my God. She's like super protective.
I love his line where he says, he's like, I don't know who the farmer guy's name was, but he's like, Ned, come distract Lady Clare while I endanger her son and her father.
Yes. It was so funny. It was great. And that kind of gave them her a moment to quiz the farmhand on
his practices and like
what he does. Yeah.
How well has it really, like, do you like them? Do you think he's nuts?
Yeah. And so she really got an honest opinion on that.
Yeah.
And so, but then we have a scary moment.
Oh, God.
Because Justin loves this little barn cat, okay? Just like traipsing around, following them, like back and forth. And then the barn cat runs off into the enclosure with the bull. And of course, she turned her head for a minute, just like any mom has happened to her before.
So relatable.
And Justin goes inside the pen with the bull. West immediately jumps the fence and puts himself between Justin and the bull and is distracting the bull back and forth. So Sebastian comes in, pulls Justin to safety. When West escapes and like jumps through the fencing or whatever, he scratches himself on a nail. Okay? Yeah. And that's what needs stitches later.
Right, exactly. I love how he was also like, she was like, let me see. And he was like, get away.
He's like, it's in an inappropriate place.
He's like, oh my God, stop it. He's like, I can put pressure on it. Get away from my inappropriate
place. Pressure. She has like all these napkins she keeps on
Phoebe,
herself.
You don't even know the effect you have on him. I was like, he does not want to get an erection in front of the entire farm.
Yeah.
Like everyone's around him and he's like, Phoebe, get away.
She's trying to like pull up his shirt and like, and it's like low, guys, the scratch.
I love it. It's perfect.
I know. And there was this awesome interaction between Sebastian and West. Sebastian's like, Ravenel, I'm in your debt, and West says, I deserve no credit, sir. It was all pure idiot reflex. I jumped in with no plan or forethought. Sebastian says, yes, that's what I liked about it.
Yes. Sebastian's like, fuck yeah, instinct.
He's a man of action.
Yeah, you didn't even think twice about your own life.
Exactly.
You like were protecting him and like, I like you. Sebastian approved.
I think that Sebastian likes West so much because he sees so much of himself in him. That's what I was going to say earlier.
Yes.
West is like a mini Sebastian.
I think so. I think so as well. but like he's turned himself around on his own.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Without having Sebastian
Evie.
had help with Evie.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of forced him into reform.
Right. Exactly. So I agree too. And I think that this was like the instant. I think he had already seen, because there was an earlier scene before they went on the farm tour inside where West had just walked in and Justin's playing his little horsey thing. Yeah. And West immediately, like, he abandons the conversation with Sebastian and Phoebe, and he's like, there seems to be an escaped horse in here,
and like the horse in the house,
playing around with Justin.
Yes,
and
so adorable.
Phoebe was going to interrupt because West had like picked him up and was like, kind of like jiggling him around, whatever, so just like turn him upside down. And Sebastian is the one that said, "Stop, let them play." And he was like, "Look how great Justin is interacting with this stranger." And I think that this was all like, Sebastian is like, love how you are with my grandson, points. And then you just protected him, further points. I like you. You're going to marry my daughter, which we'll come to later.
My God, the interactions with the kids are too adorable. Okay, so Phoebe, she's feeling, she needs to thank him for saving her son's life. So she's got to go visit him, right? Even though it's inappropriate, she wants to go to his room to thank him.
She has a little leeway. She's a widow.
Yeah, she's like, I'm a widow. I can get away with more. And so she does. And West gives Phoebe, this is where he gives Phoebe the book that he stole from Henry. This is what he says. "I was embarrassed that I'd stolen it, and I wanted to keep it just a little longer. I'd never had a book of my own. I loved finding the marks you put on your favorite scenes, 47 kisses, all totaled. I pretended they were for me."
Heartbreaking.
Oh no, my
heartbreaking.
Just like broke open.
Yeah.
And so Phoebe, again, like you had already said earlier when we talked about this in the showdown scene, she had never realized that this book meant as more to him than it probably did to Henry.
Yeah.
That he needed that comfort and that,
like Henry had Phoebe, but West didn't have.
He had no one.
We didn't have that support like that. He had Devin, but Devin's not, brotherly, like, get off, get over it.
Exactly. He's not going to leave him kisses in the book.
No.
So when he tries to give it back, Phoebe insists, like, no, you keep it. And so this turns into this little struggle, okay, where she's like, no, you take it. They have like a tug of war, and it turns into their first kiss. He just grabs her and kisses her.
I love his explanation. He was like, I was just trying to, the book was falling and your lips were just there.
I know. That's why I was like, I had to put that in there. He's like, it was an accident. She's like, yes, I understand. He's like, no, the book was falling and I was reaching for it and your lips were in the way,
So funny.
It was too cute. But here's what was funny. So they're going back and forth. Oh, no, forget this.
They're trying to reasure each other. We'll just brush this under the rug.
We're just going to pretend. And then she accidentally says, it was forgettable. And he's like, wait.
Forgettable?
What?
Did you just challenge my manhood?
Okay. He's like,
is that a challenge?
Yeah, he's like, oh no, then if this is the only time I'm going to get to kiss you, I need a second chance. We're going to do this again. She's like, wait, what? And then he lays a real,
like, this is like a real kiss, and he's really trying. He's like, brace yourself.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm bracing myself.
Hang on, Phoebe. Here I come. And it
so
was an
good.
awesome kiss. And
Beautiful.
So she, right before she runs out the room, says, there's nothing wicked about you except your kisses.
Yes,
so
because
sweet.
he was like,
because he thinks he's so
wicked.
Yes.
I'm like, West, you big softy, you.
So then we have a little scene with Evie, Phoebe's
mom. I love this.
I love this one little chapter in her point of view.
First of all, let's go back to the point where they have full-grown children, plus they have Ivo, who's 11. Yeah. And in Gabriel's book, there was a point where it said, like, Evie was kind of embarrassed whenever she found herself pregnant with Ivo because, like, she was, like, well into, like, the point where she should have stopped having kids. But apparently her and Sebastian still have that great sex life. Yeah. So
still going on.
It's still going on
now.
It is still going on. We get to see it.
This is a great chapter.
It was...
Oh my God.
It was classic Sebastian. I mean, it was just everything I could have wanted.
Look, I wanted this one for the showdown scene. And this was not even the main characters. I was like, chapter
Sebastian and Evie are my showdown and not their book.
Okay, so let me tell you about it. So in this chapter, Evie goes to check on Sebastian, who was taking a bath, by the way. And I just loved it because he's like getting the devilish eyes and he's like, you better get that dress off. He's like teasing her,
oh, I need help for my hard to reach places.
Yeah, so you better take that off and come closer. And she's like, and so they're having this civil conversation. She's trying to get the buttons undone. And he's like, you have 30 seconds before I'm going to rip that.
And she's like, you don't even have a clock. And he's like, I'm counting the heartbeats. And it's just, everything was great.
Like, oh, fine, just rip it.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
And he was like, love, you forget how good I am with small buttons or whatever.
I know. So we just get this beautiful little, they're still very
after
intimate
all these years,
and love each other. It's wonderful.
It is.
And then, but afterwards,
in bed, pillow talk.
Afterwards, they have a conversation about Phoebe. And Sebastian's basically saying, well,
did you know that she intends to marry Edward Larson? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he calls her that an invertebrate.
Yeah.
Just like the best insult ever. And so Evie tells him, well, because he says, I think West is the man for her, basically. And Evie says, well, you can't meddle because we don't know if she likes him. And he says, it's not meddling, it's just parenting.
I love this style of parenting. It's great.
It's great.
He's amazing. Okay.
Sebastian's like, I'm right.
Poor Sebastian. And that's what Evie says too. Like, she finds it hard to argue with him when most of the time he is right.
Yeah.
about all the meddling. Okay, so let's go back to the barn cat because I like her role into this too. So the barn cat's attached to Phoebe and her family. She even tries to bring it back to the barn, but it just follows them on their outing to the stream.
This cat.
I love this cat too, and they end up even putting it in the pram in place of Steven. And it's just like it's the greatest thing ever. It's the most unexpected moments, honestly. So whenever they get to the stream, they happen upon West, who's been helping with sheep washing, which I thought this whole description of this process was hilarious. I'm just like picturing this, and I'm just like, God, like turning the sheep over and swishing them. I'm like, this is funny. This is great.
Yeah.
But he's very playful with the boys, and also Phoebe too, because he pretends like he's gonna throw her in the stream. And she really hasn't had this. She hasn't
this very
playful, a man who can like pick her up,
lift her.
Exactly. And she's not even like a big person or anything. No. He just, Henry can't do that type of stuff. But she's realizing that she's been wrapping Justin and Steven in cotton wool since Henry's death when she sees how much they enjoy West's games with like mud, sticks, rocks, just like normal outing boys stuff.
Little boys
like going outside,
rocks.
Playing with not even like toys, because she said she bought them all these like expensive comfort things like in like the nursery, all these like items and toys, and they're having so much fun. Just
West is down by
rocks.
the river, stacking rocks and making like a little mud dam or something. Yeah. Is like the cutest thing.
It is adorable. And he's so comfortable just like being alone with the kids.
I love that. Oh.
Me too. It's like he already has my heart. He doesn't need to do any more, but whatever. Just keep going.
It's over.
It's fine. So Wes invites Phoebe to learn bookkeeping the next day, and she agrees, which it was funny. The whole scene was funny. I love the humor that she injects in like every scene. It's serious, but also humorous without being like over the top. So he knows that he is in over his head. He even he's like the worst mistake that he's ever made was kissing her, and that he would never recover from it. So like he knows, guys, like he's not unaware.
Yes.
He's not unaware that she definitely has a hold on him where no other woman has had, but he's just like, I'm not even going to think about a future because I know it's never going to be. I don't want
She's
my
a beautiful
reputation.
heiress that I can never have.
Right, exactly. So everyone has also noticed his reaction to Phoebe, and his brother Devin doesn't see why he can't be with her, even though Wes confesses to possibly being in love with Phoebe. And this line right here by Wes kind of really sums up exactly how he thinks of himself. He tells his brother Devin, he says, "You were a rake. I was a wreck. 2 years of moderately decent behavior doesn't wipe away an entire personal history." So he still thinks that he has to repent for these sins.
Yeah, he's still atoning for all that.
He's still atoning for all of it, and he doesn't think that he deserves someone as lovely as Phoebe and as amazing as her children.
Right.
Which I get that. Like, I'm glad that it wasn't over some stupid reason, because I understand that, because and especially since throughout the series, for me too, you actually witness his transformation.
Right.
And so now it's like he's like, 2 years is nothing. I've been doing all this other shit for a long time.
He's like, my reputation is going to follow me for a long time.
Right, exactly. And affect the boys' future. He doesn't want them to hear about it and then possibly get teased about it, or
humiliated and shamed.
Yeah, exactly. And be embarrassed about him. So I understand it. It was definitely a good point of conflict for me. But Wes teaches Phoebe the ins and outs of accounting and the benefits of modernized farming. And during the lesson, he discovers that Henry made Phoebe promise to marry the cousin, Edward Larson, the one who's taking care of the estate. And Phoebe says that she doesn't need love or lust because women's needs are different than men's.
No, Phoebe.
This is where West
another challenge
demonstrates that you're wrong. You do need these things. And I'm going to show you exactly. Oh God. And then he tells her, because he's like, he's so annoyed by Edward Larson. He's like, he's a fool, because if I was him, I would have already made a move. Like, I would have definitely at least kissed you.
He's not even kissed you yet? Like, what's wrong with this guy?
And then he was like, no. He's like, I want you with my entire body. You're all I think about. You're all I see. You're the center of a star, and the force of gravity keeps pulling me closer, and I don't give a damn that I'm about to be incinerated. And I'm just like, you are such a fucking poet, West.
I know. I highlighted this quote,
Me too. That was one of my
good.
favorites. It's definitely going in our favorite quotes, but whatever.
Good.
But after he demonstrates exactly how much she's missing out on, he pushes her away by pretending it was only a demonstration. And she feels humiliated that it meant nothing to him. Yeah. And Wes does feel like an ass.
He does, immediately.
And this brings you to your, showdown scene.
So he thinks it was the right decision, since he was very close to confessing his feelings for her, that he's actually in love with her. And she even sensed that he was going to, and then he turned it all into like this, horrid joke and becomes sort of snarky and whatever.
Right.
So Phoebe remains polite for the rest of their visit, but keeps her distance. She avoids Wes as much as possible without being, too noticeable that other people will remark on it. Right. And he can't have her leaving that way. And so that's on impulse. He grabs a book about land management and writes an inscription in it and brings it to her. This is when he confesses, as I said earlier, I won't go too deep into it, but he confesses that he misled her because he does have feelings for her, and that he's jealous, and he just can't even stand the fact that, she may be marrying.
He obviously cares about her, because he's like, look, here, I know you're going to need help. Here you go. Here's this book. But I know you're going to
need help and you really do need to take some, control over the management, the farm for the boys.
Kind of also like, I believe in you. I believe in you, and you can do this shit.
I really like that he was empowering her. You know what
definitely
I mean?
Giving her the tools and not just being like, let me solve this for you. It's he's definitely, equipping her with what she needs to manage it by herself.
And he even admits, he's like, I won't be there to see you off. He can't.
That's what he says. He's like, I can't do it because I will probably embarrass us both with, I will probably do something really stupid.
It's so heartbreaking.
I like how he doesn't tell Phoebe at this point that he does, like, oh, I definitely have feelings for you, but you can tell by what he says, and he's very open about that fact.
Yes.
By him saying, I can't be there because whatever, I'm going to make a fool of myself in front of everybody.
So I'm crumbling inside, basically.
Right, exactly.
And that's what I like about West, is that even though, it's just very atypical of these types of situations where we see our heroes in a lot of romance novels who are just caught up in their own thing, and it's all this sort of like miscommunication.
It's like normally we see a backlash from the hero, and it hurts the heroine, but they're too proud to say that they were wrong, or
it's their
like
pride that gets in the way, and then that's what keeps the conflict rolling. But here it's not. He is honest, and it's like, look, I'm sorry. I'm just,
Exactly. I totally 100% agree.
So, so the barn cat. Okay.
Yeah, he takes the cat before he leaves her room.
He takes the cat before he leaves. He put the cat like outside, but when he goes back up, he's wandering through her room, finds the cat there again. Okay. And so he has sudden inspiration to reunite the cat with Phoebe. And so he just I love that he's impulsive. Like he feels something's like, I'm going to do this. Yeah. So he puts the cat in the basket, runs to the train, delivers it. And when Phoebe gets the cat in the basket, she's like, oh, wait a second. And she opens up the curtain, and he's there just leaning against a pillar, watching her and tipping his hat to her as the train pulls away. It was such a beautiful scene. I loved it.
It was a beautiful scene.
And so she reads the inscription in the book that he gave her. And the inscription says, when in difficulty, remember the words of our mutual friend, Stephen Armstrong. You can always swim out of quicksand as long as you don't panic. Or send for me, and I'll come throw you a rope. I know.
It's like, hey,
I love him.
I'm here for you if you need me.
I know,
okay?
exactly. And so, oh God, that was so good.
I also like whenever with the cat, there's a note that says like, I'm an unemployed feline seeking household position. Like he wrote the cat like a resume.
Yeah, resume here. He's looking for work.
Wes is great. Oh God, I love him so much. So 3-month time jump, people. Phoebe has been redecorating the house, the Clare estate, to look less like a sick room and to bring more air and lightness for her boys, more like her family's estate, Heron's Point.
Yes.
Her mother-in-law is having a hard time letting go because she doesn't want to erase Henry's memory, which is understandable. I believe her mother-in-law had other children who also died.
Yeah,
and
she had
Henry
5
was
children,
yes, exactly.
and they all died.
So understandably, I mean, this was her last child and he just died. So she decides to go on holiday and Edward will escort her there and be gone for at least a fortnight while he's getting her settled.
Set up like overseas or whatever.
Right, like in Italy or somewhere. Yeah. So Phoebe has repeatedly asked Edward for the account ledgers since he moved them out of the house into his father's firm.
For
convenience,
in town. Convenient.
Like it's more convenient for me because I have business there. And that's why I took them out of the house.
Never asking her permission.
And she's been asking straight for 3 months and he's not bringing it back. It's ridiculous. And he's making excuses and all that. And it's just so stupid.
I mean, it's so obvious. She's like, dude, you've forgotten you've been here twice a week since you've been home.
And she's also been like, just when she's casually riding around, she kind of sees things like, he's all like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We're doing great. And she's like thinking to herself, I've been riding around. I've seen like productivity
I've seen a thriving farm, where I was, and this doesn't look thriving.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm seeing differences here, and you're obviously not telling me the whole story. Yeah. So as soon as Edward and her mother-in-law leave, she takes the children and 2 footmen on a picnic, and then she stops to collect the ledgers from Edward's father.
I love that.
She uses her power of persuasion, and she gets the job done. She brings it back. So she is put out whenever she's looking through the books, and it looks nothing like what Wes showed her at the Ravenel estate. Right. So she really does need help. So on impulse, she sends a letter to Wes saying she's knee deep in quicksand and she needs a rope. And would you possibly have time to visit Essex?
That's so awesome.
I also like to, after she sends the letter, she immediately kind of regrets it. And she's like, but what if he's busy because it is September and I know that he said that it's harvest season. Maybe he won't have time. And Phoebe's thinking maybe he's moved on. Maybe he doesn't have feelings for me. Maybe it's just waned, because it was kind of like a, very instant attraction over the course of a week.
Maybe he's forgotten about me or whatever. Ding dong.
Nope. Wes shows up the next freaking day in lieu of simply writing a reply being like, yeah, I'll come in a bit. No, he shows
on the doorstep. It's
the
so
next
awesome.
day ready to help Phoebe get things in order. That's how you know.
I love him so much.
He is so sunk.
He's so into her.
He's so into her.
Oh, God. Okay, so Phoebe tells Wes that she isn't going to marry Edward and is disappointed at his lack of reaction. I also that this isn't drawn out either, this aspect of the conflict. He says that he isn't there to take advantage of her, but when she asks if the things he told her that morning before she left were even true, he is forced to admit that he is haunted by her.
Oh, he kills me.
I know. He doesn't just blow it off. No, he says he is haunted by her. Okay.
And so that's it. That's all she needs to know.
And Phoebe's like, yeah, okay, I want this man, So that's all the encouragement Phoebe needs. And she kisses him before being interrupted by Jessen, who comes in.
I thought this was so cute.
It was so cute.
He doesn't recognize Wes, though, because he has a huge
Who is this man?
beard.
He's like a big,
this
long
unkempt beard just because he's been so busy. And
in the fields.
And she's like, oh, this is Wes. But as soon as she tells Jessen that it's Wes, he is beyond excited.
Into his arms.
Beyond.
It's so adorable. I love that scene.
He's so comfortable with him. I love.
Yeah. So we have more really easy interactions with the boys, which also solidifies that Phoebe wants West any way she can get him. Wes feels a sense of doom because he knows that no other woman could come close to Phoebe. It's so sad, the thoughts he has, because he has such affection for her and the sons, and he's head over heels in love with her, and he just doesn't know what to do because he feels like a fraud to be part of such a domestic scene playing with the sons when he knows that all the things he can't ever have her is what he keeps telling himself. Right. So, but then there's a scene where Phoebe watches West play with her boys and comes to the realization that she must be the pursuer since she knows his fears of being unworthy are clouding his judgment.
True. So, and I'm like,
and I do love that.
Get after your man.
That's right. Your devil's daughter. You better stand up and go get your man.
What he's missing.
That's right.
I like this too.
And I love her, how she first sort of like pushes the envelope. So it's it's revealed internally that West also worries about becoming abusive toward his children like his own father was.
Right. Understandable. Again.
Yes. I can see that.
Yeah, there's a whole conversation with Ransom because his cousin also experienced something similar.
Exactly.
But yet he just got married. And he's planning to have kids.
Children. Yeah.
And he's like, but how can you even trust yourself?
He's like, because you love them. You're not going to.
Exactly.
So West tells Phoebe that her instincts are right and that Edward removing the books from the Clare estate and not returning them when he asked is a red flag. That something's going on.
He's like, trust your instincts. They're good. Like, this is, you're fine. Like, don't be embarrassed and don't let him make you think that you're crazy.
Right.
Because you're not crazy.
Because if you believe something's wrong, then something is probably wrong.
Right.
So the entry method is different, like we said, but West has to study it. He's like, look, I do know this, but it's going to take me a little time. I just need to discover discrepancies.
So on impulse, Phoebe decides to personally bring West shaving supplies, which turns into a very sensual act. And I like this small throwback to Sebastian shaving Ivo Jenner.
Yes.
Because she even mentioned, she's like, my father taught me how to shave because she needed to shave Henry whenever he was in his sick bed and Sebastian taught her.
That was the first thing I thought about.
I was just like, this is so adorable.
My God, it was so good.
It's so adorable.
Yeah.
So West hasn't let anyone shave him since he tells Phoebe the sight of an adult man's hands always kind of meant something bad for him. And so he's never really trusted anybody with a sharp object near his, vulnerable neck.
Yes.
Understandable. But he's willing to let Phoebe try since the sound of the blade against the beard gives her tingles, which I thought this was hilarious because there's this popular craze on YouTube. It's called ASMR. And all these YouTubers, like my sister does it all the time. All these YouTubers are like whispering in their mics, making like whispery sounds with other objects and stuff. It's kind of like a modern tie-in. You know what I'm saying? A modern tie-in in a historical novel. Because that's definitely a trend.
Yeah.
So
Wes wants her to get the tingles.
Yeah.
So he's
Wes
all
is
about
like,
that.
well, if it gives you the tingles, I mean, I guess I'll submit.
Yes.
So Phoebe wickedly shaves West in her camise to distract him from his fears. So after enduring that temptation, West is beyond ready to pounce on her after that. And I think that Lisa Kleypas writes some of the best sex scenes. Like they're a mix of humor, fumbling. I like how like the first position they tried wasn't quite right. Like sometimes that happens in sex. Like come on, insert some reality into your sex. Like sometimes it's like, it's not working. It's fine to be like, it's not working. Let's try it.
Let's try
Nothing's
something else.
Perfect. Sometimes you fumble. Sometimes you bump each other. It's fine. So I kind of like that too. There's a good mix of lightness and seriousness and extreme sensuality and some very poetic dirty talk. Like poetic. I'm like, I don't know how she does it. I would find this very hard to do.
It's very difficult.
It's amazing though. It just like gave me chills reading it for a second time still.
The scenes are so good.
So beautiful. So West insists that this doesn't mean, well, before they have sex, he's like, this doesn't mean that there's a future for us. And Phoebe says that he's hers for as long as he's at the Clare estate. Like she's like, I'll take what I can get. But inside, she's kind of like, she definitely wants more. She knows she wants more. She's not dumb. But West finally discovers in the estate books that a loan was borrowed against Justin's inheritance. Dun, dun, dun.
Yep.
He wants to contact his friend Ransom, who can get information from about the loan since he was like a spy. He's like, he can get the information pretty fast. So let's contact him before we contact your dad.
Right.
Because that was her initial reaction.
She's like, let me get
Sebastian.
my dad. He can help. He has influence or whatever.
Right. So Ransom returns with the discovery that the loan is being used to pay for household expenditures for Edward's mistress. Yeah. And his illegitimate son, which I was also really surprised about Phoebe's reaction to it all. I mean, she was definitely put out that he's lying and borrowing against her son's inheritance, but she's also like, poor girl. Obviously, he doesn't want to acknowledge her. And she's probably not a part of this. Like she was 17 whenever she got pregnant with Edward's son. Right, exactly. So she feels really bad that he took advantage of a young girl.
And now she's basically, her life is ruined. She's unmarriageable.
And even Ransom says, he's like, damn, you got like a really tender heart. Like that's amazing.
I know.
He's like, I don't know anybody who would have reacted like this.
I know.
And Wes is kind of a little put out though.
Yeah, he's like,
Wes was like really put out on Justin's behalf. Yeah. He was like, no, this is not okay. Nobody, he's acting like a dad, okay? He is.
Very much.
West is a little restless after all of that. And after another night with Phoebe where they were very close to losing all control and risking Phoebe falling pregnant because, he's been very careful about using the good old-fashioned pull-out method, which is not foolproof, guys. Always wear a condom.
Really not.
But
back then.
Yeah, exactly. So he knows he has to go. He tells her. He was like, it's killing me. He's like, I have to leave tomorrow. Oh, but Phoebe doesn't even put up a fight, which makes Wes feel even worse because I'm sure he's like expecting hysterics.
Yeah, he's expecting some, for her to be angry.
But the thing is, Phoebe's fight with so him or used to losing people and so used to having to stand on her own that she just like, it's okay. I know I can survive.
Yeah,
like
and I think she's really being gracious to him. Like, I don't know. I feel like at some point she was thinking, this isn't over, but I need to let him go right now.
Exactly. I also felt that way too. I felt like she was like, we had this connection. I kind of have faith that this isn't the end.
Yeah.
But I do have other stuff to deal with. Right. Obviously, she has a lot of shit to deal with right now too. So I was okay with all of this. And I'm like, I'm glad that she wasn't like trying to beg him to stay.
Yeah. I did too. It's another character. Very unexpected move on Lisa Kleypas's part. You know, I just love there were so many unexpected moments in this book. I loved it.
She's amazing.
So she is awesome. So Wes decided not to return to the Ravenel estate and proceeds to drown his sorrows in London. He's getting totally wasted alone by himself. Phoebe confronts Edward, and then we bounce back to Phoebe. Phoebe confronts Edward about the loan, says that she will not marry him and that she wants no financial ties between them. She's basically like, And
I love his reaction. It's kind of like,
wait,
what?
Wait,
what?
I don't understand.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, you're an idiot.
He is such an idiot.
I know. So she tells him to resign the executorship of the will and step aside as trustee of the estate and not to make the legal process difficult. She's like, look, dude, you need to get your shit
I'm not trying to be vindictive. Like, let's try to settle this as quickly as we can, as possible. And
I want all legal ties done, and I want to be executor.
I want to be done with this.
Yes. So Edward shows his true colors here where he insists that he could never marry the woman because she's like, why don't you marry your mistress? And he's like, I could never marry that woman. Yeah. She's of such low birth. He even says, I'll ship the kid off somewhere. You'll never see him. I'll ship him to the Americas. Yeah. Like that's going to suddenly make her want to marry him. She's like, dude.
Exactly. And he was like, and whenever Phoebe's just kind of looking at him like she's like, he's crazy. He's like, well, I did love her if that makes you feel any better. But like, obviously it doesn't matter.
But he has no respect for her. He just used her.
Oh God, he's such an awful person. I don't like him at all.
And the real problem is that he's masquerading under this facade of
right because Phoebe was like, what happened to this person who respects women so much?
Yes.
Like,
and was such a gentleman of honor.
Exactly.
He has no honor.
No, not at all.
So Phoebe finds it ironic that he is still willing to be a father to her sons, but not his own.
Which I was
She's just
burn.
Disgusted.
Burn.
I know. She was disgusted. She's like, leave. Tell them to leave.
Bye-bye.
So it's been a week since West has left, and he is still drowning his sorrows very low. Yeah. And he's drinking, not bathing, and hanging out. His friend Tom Severin shows up.
He's like his frenemy. Tom Severin's in other books in the Ravenel series,
I can't wait to go back and read the Ravenels.
He's definitely a big part in the first one, too. So.
Yeah. And I'm sure he's going to get a book, I would think.
I'm wondering if he's going to be set up with Cassandra, the other twin, Pandora's twin. But I don't know how. I'm wondering if something, because the timelines overlap. Gabriel's book goes beyond the wedding. Like we see scenes after that, but this book comes back to his wedding. So I'm wondering if for Cassandra's book, if Cassandra and Tom Severin are there, because he's there at the wedding. Tom Severin's at the wedding. I'm wondering if we'll come back and be like, oh, Tom and Cassandra have a moment during this whole thing. Because we don't hear from Tom. Yes. We don't hear from Tom the rest of the time, but he's there apparently.
Right. Oh,
so I'm like,
cool. what you doing, Tom? What you doing over there? Well, no, these are awesome characters. So Severin's like, hey, look, come out with me. We're going to go to Jenner's. And he, of course, immediately.
Wes does put up a fight a little bit.
He's like, I don't want to go there. That's Phoebe's dad's place. What if he's there? He's like, I don't want him to see me like this, you know? And so he convinces them. He's like, look, he's not going to be there. Let's just go. So they do. They go.
And they find like a corner booth,
yeah,
whatever.
They have a corner booth. Yeah. They're kind of off to the side. They're not like in the main hall or whatever. And then Edward walks in with a gun pointed to kill West.
God.
By the way, this scene, it's funny.
It is. It is. Tom's reaction, like everything.
I know. He's like, wait, are you going to kill him?
Wes is like, it's not even cocked.
Yeah. It's like, it's not even cocked. And so then he cocks the gun.
So he cocks it. And he's like, yeah, there you go.
You're like, okay, go ahead and shoot me now. Like, and then Tom's like, wait, are you here to kill him or kill me? Which one of us?
Like,
is
it's
bad?
Apparently you.
Yeah.
Be like, but why do you want to kill him? He's so miserable right now.
He's
like, wouldn't you rather him suffer?
Yeah, he's already suffering. What do you need to kill him for?
It is a very humorous scene, and I think Lisa does it well.
I don't know
how she does it, but she does it.
Yeah. So then, of course, while they're having this whole conversation with frantic Edward, who's lost his mind, it's like, you've taken her from me, and all this crazy stuff. Sebastian comes in, disarms him, and then ships him off. It's like, you're gonna sleep it off in the jail.
He's like. Yeah, he's like, Edward, you're going to jail. West, you need to go upstairs.
And I love how he's like, no, I don't want to do that. He's like, oh no, you need to bask in the sunshine of my wisdom going up there.
That was a beautiful line.
Was that line the best?
That was the best line.
So the next day, Sebastian has a heart-to-heart with West. And this is where I really see these two are so much alike. Their conversation.
He even says it.
Yeah, saying that he knows all about his past and that it doesn't change the fact that he approves a match between him and Phoebe. West is stunned and says he doesn't deserve her. But Sebastian's like, he's like, he's done worse. But he also says, no, we don't deserve them. He said it's an unfair fact of life that the worst men end up with the best women.
Yeah, because he says, he was like, I didn't deserve my wife at all, but I got her
and I'm keeping her.
Exactly.
Like she's mine.
Like, I'm sorry nobody else picked her up, but I am.
So sorry she's mine. This makes me want to go back and reread their story.
Me too.
I know.
God.
Okay. Sebastian had sent for Phoebe that morning, and when she arrives, West is finally willing to accept that he is meant for her, even though he is afraid of the consequences they might face in the future. And so I love this because he had promised, he said, I promise you I'll never propose to you.
Right. They were like joking about it, how she's not ready to go back in London society because like, there's going to be
all these wife hunters and stuff.
Yeah, fortune hunters that want her fortune and like, ooh, a wealthy widow.
Right.
And he was like, I promise I'll never propose to you.
So now... He's like, so you're going to have to propose to me. So she does.
I love it.
Yeah, it was so cute.
It was the cutest ending. I kind of wanted just like a little bit of epilogue, maybe. I don't know. I just wanted a little bit more.
A little bit more of them.
I think that's a good sign, though, because it's like you want more of this couple that you spent the entire book with.
Yeah. It's...
But you still can't get enough of them.
I know.
I wouldn't mind really like a novella too, because a lot of the times Kleypas does do like a Christmas themed novella type of thing. So I wouldn't mind a little novella with them, honestly. And I hope we catching up with them
in the next book too.
Oh yeah, because we have to. I mean, she can't just leave Cassandra hanging. Cassandra has to be in a next book. Can't just have one Ravenel left. You know what I'm saying? So
I've got to go back and read all of them.
So I'm just assuming that Cassandra's book is going to be next. But I'm also like, can Ivo get a book?
My gosh, please skip time and let Ivo get his book.
Honestly, I could read about Sebastian and Evie's children for the rest of my life because they still have Serafina and Raphael and Ivo. So I'm just like, will we get a spinoff with them later maybe? Because I'm just like, oh God, and I want to know what Raphael's doing. He's like in America somewhere. Like, what are you doing?
That's right. The brother who sent like the cutest message to Gabriel.
Yeah, it's just adorable. Their brotherly bond is so cute.
I love all of these characters. They're so witty and wonderful.
Doesn't matter if we don't get them, but I really want them.
But I really
want them now. So Lisa, if you're listening.
And I'm just so excited because this was my first one in the Ravenels. Now I'm excited to go back and read all of them. So
I also want you to read the Hathaways too.
Oh, okay. Wait, which one is Cam in?
Hathaways.
He's in the Hathaways? Mm-hmm. Then I got to read that.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah, you do. Actually, not to make this a Penny show, but in Penny Reads, Penny first part of her trilogy in the Laws of Physics motion, one of her characters goes to a bookstore and picks up one of the books in the Hathaway series.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew they didn't even say the title of it, but they described the characters and I was like, yeah, that's Beatrix. I'm like, yeah, it's a Lisa Kleypas book. And so I was like, oh, I love it. It's so cute. All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to our next one where we'll be discussing Talk British to Me by Robin Beelman. Thanks so much for listening.
This goes out to all the fangirls.
Life's better with a little HEA.